Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to jump into one of the first big ideas in economics that tried to get to the bottom of a really basic question. Why do we buy the stuff we buy? We're talking about something called Cardinal Utility Analysis. All right, let's start with a puzzle, a classic that even had the great Adam Smith scratching his head. He called it the paradox of value. Think about it. Water is absolutely essential for survival, but it costs next to nothing. Diamonds, on the other hand, are pretty much just shiny rocks, and they cost a fortune. And look, this isn't just some old riddle, right? It's actually a key that unlocks the hidden logic behind why we value things the way we do. So, to crack this paradox, economists back in the 19th century came up with a really powerful concept. They called it utility. So they basically said, hey, we're not just buying things, we're buying the satisfaction those things give us. And they had this wild idea that this feeling, this utility, wasn't just some vague concept. No, they believed you could actually measure it with numbers using these imaginary units they called utils. Now, this whole idea of being able to measure satisfaction leads to one of the most important principles in all of economics. And it's something I guarantee you felt, even if you didn't have a fancy name for it. Okay, the main idea here is super simple. Think about pizza. That first slice, it's amazing, pure bliss. The eighth slice, not so much. The marginal, or you can think of it as the additional, satisfaction you get from each extra unit just keeps going down. Your total happiness might still be going up for a while, but it's climbing slower and slower with each slice. And we can actually put some numbers to this feeling. So that first cup of tea in the morning, it gives you a huge boost, like 12 of those utils of happiness. The second cup is still good, but a little less so, maybe 10 utils. You can see the trend, right? By the time you get to the seventh cup, you're actually in the negative. You've hit what economists call disutility, which is just a fancy way of saying, oops, I probably shouldn't have had that last one. Okay, so here's the big question, right? If every bite of pizza or sip of tea gives you a little less happiness than the last one, how on earth do you decide how to spend your money? With a limited budget, how do you get the most possible happiness? And this is where the theory gets, well, pretty brilliant. It suggests that without even thinking about it, we're all trying to make the satisfaction we get from the very last dollar we spend on everything equal. We're not trying to make the last coffee we buy as good as the last movie ticket we buy. We're trying to make the last dollar's worth of coffee give us the same bang for our buck as the last dollar's worth of movie ticket. Let's really break this down. Say you've got $24 to spend. You're not just going to buy whatever gives you the most joy, you're going to buy what gives you the most joy per dollar. You'd keep shifting your spending around, a little more here, a little less there, until, bam, you hit the sweet spot. In this case, that happens when the last dollar you spend on both good X and good Y gives you exactly 5 utils of satisfaction. That means you buy 6 of X and 4 of Y, and you've perfectly maxed out your happiness for your budget.
And this all boils down to this one beautiful little formula. When the marginal utility of X divided by its price equals the marginal utility of Y divided by its price, you're in what economists call equilibrium. You're perfectly happy with your choices. There's no way to rearrange your spending to get any more total satisfaction.
So that's cool for figuring out your own shopping cart. But here's where this theory really flexes its muscles. It gives us this incredibly elegant explanation for maybe the most famous graph in all of economics, the downward sloping demand curve. All right, just imagine you're perfectly happy. You're in that sweet spot we talked about. Your bang for your buck is equal across the board. Then suddenly, wham, the price of good X drops. Well, now your whole equation is out of whack. The satisfaction per dollar you're getting from X is suddenly way, way higher. So what's your natural reaction? You buy more of it. And as you buy more, its marginal utility, that extra bit of satisfaction, starts to fall until everything is back in balance again. And there you have it. A lower price leads to a higher quantity demanded. That's the law of demand, explained by human psychology. And just like that, we're back where we started, with our water and diamonds. The theory solves the paradox perfectly. Price isn't about total usefulness. It's about marginal usefulness. We have so much water that the satisfaction from one more glass is basically zero, so it's cheap. But because diamonds are so incredibly rare, the satisfaction you'd get from getting just one more is huge. And that's why they're so expensive. So there you have it, a neat, tidy, elegant theory. But, and you knew there was a but coming, right? This isn't really the main way we think about this stuff anymore. Almost as soon as the theory was perfected, other economists started poking some pretty big holes in it. First off, and this is a big one, can you really put a number on happiness? Can you honestly say that an apple gives you exactly 10 utils of joy? It's a feeling, not a number. The theory also treats everything like you consume it in a vacuum. But what's the utility of a pen if you don't have ink? Or the utility of tea if coffee is right there as another option? It just totally ignores these relationships between products. And then there's the money problem, which is a huge flaw. The theory just assumes that the value of a dollar is always the same to you. But think about it. If you're a billionaire, one more dollar means nothing. If you've only got $10 to your name, that next dollar is a really big deal. When the price of something you buy a lot of goes down, you're effectively richer. This theory completely misses that income effect, and it turns out that's a massive piece of the story. And this wasn't just some minor detail. The famous economist J.R. Hicks basically said that by ignoring how price changes make you feel richer or poorer, the theory was missing half the picture. It saw that when a price drops, that item becomes a better deal. That's the substitution effect. But it was blind to the fact that a price drop also frees up your money, making you feel wealthier. That's the income effect. The theory left, as he put it, an empty box crying out to be filled. Because of these holes, the whole theory just falls apart when it comes across weird, but totally real situations like the Giffen paradox. This is a rare case where, for a very poor family, if the price of a basic food like potatoes goes up, they might actually buy more of them. Why? Because now they definitely can't afford any meat, so they have to buy even more potatoes to survive. It's a powerful income effect in action, the very thing this theory can't handle. So while this cardinal utility analysis was a super important first try at modeling how we make choices, its flaws were just too big to ignore. It pushed economists to drop the whole idea of measuring happiness and instead come up with new tools that are just based on ranking our preferences, something we call ordinal utility. And that new approach, which learned from the mistakes of this first one, is really the foundation of how we think about this today. But it does make you wonder, right? Can we ever really capture something as complex as human desire with a simple equation?